Love is a quiet language, spoken not through words but through presence. When a man loves you, it isn't the declarations that stay. It's the pauses between them. It's the way he remembers the smallest things, the way he stands beside you when the world feels heavy. Love, in its truest form, rarely announces itself. It hums gently beneath the surface, in gestures, in timing, in consistency. But there's a difference between being told you are loved and feeling loved, between promises and patterns, between charm and devotion. It looks like a quiet drive home after a long day. When a man loves you, you begin to notice that silence is no longer empty. It holds meaning. It holds safety. It holds a kind of understanding that no phrase could carry. Because real love doesn't always rush to fill the air. It listens. He may not always know what to say, but his presence has a language of its own, spoken through tone, timing, and touch. It's the way he moves closer when the world feels far away, the way his silence shifts when you're hurting, becoming a shelter instead of a wall. When love is real, it doesn't demand attention. It doesn't announce itself. It simply is, steady, quiet, and true. And yet we live in a world obsessed with loud affection, grand gestures, declarations, the endless performance of emotion. We've been taught to measure love by the volume of its expression, but the truth is softer, because when a man loves you, you don't need to wonder if he does. You'll see it in the way he listens, really listens, without planning a response. You'll see it in the way his eyes follow your emotions more than your words, in how he pays attention to your silences, the pauses that others miss. Love in this form feels less like fire and more like gravity. It doesn't burn, it grounds, it pulls you back to yourself, it gives you room to breathe. There's a moment you might notice, subtle, almost invisible, when he begins to care without needing to prove it, when his affection stops trying to impress you and starts to protect you, protect your peace, your time, your rest. That's when you'll know love has deepened beyond romance and entered devotion. But this kind of love doesn't always look cinematic. It's quiet, domestic, sometimes clumsy. It forgets words but remembers warmth. It's in the way he takes the side of the bed closest to the door, the way he reaches for your hand not to possess it, but to anchor himself, the way he chooses patience over pride again and again. Love speaks most clearly when it's unforced, when it doesn't need translation, when it becomes less about what's said and more about what's shown. Because words are fleeting, beautiful, but light. Actions are heavier. They leave traces long after the sound fades. You'll feel the difference between a love that flatters you and a love that steadies you, between a man who promises to be there and a man who simply is. It's a strange kind of peace when you stop needing proof, when you realize that the quiet between you isn't distance, but comfort. That silence, shared with the right person, is the most honest language of all. In the end, love is not about what fills the room. It's about what remains when everything else goes quiet. And when a man loves you, you'll know it not because he tells you, but because he doesn't have to. Love does not begin as poetry. It begins as imitation. Before a man learns what love means, he learns how it is shown. In the quiet rooms of childhood, in the tone of a parent's voice, in the way affection was given or withheld. He absorbs the rules of connection long before he has the language for it. Some boys grow up in homes where love is a gentle sound, spoken freely, woven into laughter, where touch is safe and words are kind. They learn that love is a bridge, not a battle. They grow comfortable naming their feelings, holding softness without shame. Others grow up where silence is survival, where love hides behind duty or pride or anger. They watch men love through doing, not saying. Fixing the car instead of saying, I care. Providing, protecting, but never explaining. In those homes, love becomes something to prove, not something to feel. This is where the roots of expression are planted, and they grow deep, because a man's way of loving is often a mirror of what he saw or longed for in his earliest relationships. The father who showed affection only through work teaches his son that love must always be earned. The mother who loved with intensity but inconsistency teaches that love can be both safety and threat. The absence of affection becomes its own form of instruction. And so, when he grows, he carries those lessons quietly inside him. Not out of choice, but out of inheritance. He loves the way he was taught, whether those lessons served him or not. Attachment theory calls this the emotional blueprint, the invisible architecture that guides how we bond. Secure, anxious, avoidant, or fearful, each pattern shaped by early care, by how love first felt in the body. A secure child learns that love is stable. An anxious one learns that love might leave. An avoidant one learns that needing love is dangerous. These patterns don't disappear with age. They evolve with experience. They dictate how a man will hold you, how he will retreat, how he will return. They shape how freely he can say, "I love you," and whether he believes those words matter more than what he does. To understand the way a man loves is to understand where he learned silence. Many men were never given permission to name their feelings without being called weak. They were told to be strong, to fix things, to endure. And so love became action, a set of responsibilities rather than expressions. They were not taught how to speak tenderness, only how to build it, how to carry love in their hands instead of their mouths, to protect, to provide, to show up. But love without language can be misunderstood. A man who works tirelessly may believe he's proving devotion, while his partner aches for a simple word. She wants to hear love. He wants her to see it. And between those two intentions, affection gets lost in translation. This is where most relationships falter, not from lack of love, but from difference in expression. He may love deeply, but speak a dialect of devotion she doesn't yet understand. Because while women are often socialized to communicate emotion, men are taught to contain it, to love quietly, efficiently, invisibly. And yet somewhere within that conditioning, something softer remains. A longing to be understood without judgment, to be loved not for what he says, but for what he tries to say. Because when a man loves you, he is often translating a lifetime of unspoken lessons into gestures. When he fixes the small things, when he shows up when it matters, when he listens, not perfectly but persistently, those are his love letters. Still, beneath it all, there's a hunger to be seen beyond action, to be told, you don't have to do to deserve love. You can just be. That's the quiet healing every man needs. The permission to express without proving, to feel without fear. And that's where love begins to change shape, not just as inheritance, but as choice. Because when a man learns that tenderness isn't weakness, he starts to speak differently. His silence softens. His gestures become more intentional. And love, once rigid, becomes something alive again, something that breathes. We learn to love as we were taught, but we can learn to love differently too. And sometimes that begins with someone who listens to the silence between his words and hears the heart trying to speak beneath it. When a man loves you, his body begins to tell the truth his words might hesitate to. Every choice, every gesture carries neurological weight. Because love, in essence, is not an emotion, it's a physiological state. It rewires how the brain responds to closeness, fear, and trust. Psychologists call this attachment behavior, the instinctive actions that signal, you matter, you are safe, it's in the reach for your hand without thinking. The check-in message not out of obligation, but attunement. The quiet consistency that teaches your nervous system, I will not disappear. The chemistry of connection. Inside the brain, love begins with a surge of chemicals: oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, is released through touch, eye contact, and shared vulnerability. It's what calms the body when someone you trust is near. Dopamine fuels the thrill of connection, the spark that makes you remember the sound of his voice, the small details that linger. Serotonin stabilizes it, grounding affection into security. Over time, these chemicals stop chasing excitement and start building peace. That's the quiet stage of real love, the transition from infatuation to stability. It's when the brain no longer seeks novelty but reassurance. And this is where actions matter most. Because in love, the brain learns through repetition. Words may comfort, but consistency rewires. When his actions match his affection, your body begins to relax. When they don't, your body begins to guard. It's biology. Trust is not a thought. It's a nervous system response. It's what happens when safety becomes predictable.